SPYR.
Welcome back to Started Now. I'm your host, Jeff Sarris. This is the show where I talk to entrepreneurs and creatives of all types to reveal the unexpected paths to where they are today. Today, my guest is Ashley, better known as MamaBucks, and we talk about the ERALôR NFT project. But we dive into everything, Ashley's entire story, and everything that she's gone through to get to where she is today, and how ERALôR is the sort of compendium of everything that she's done in her life and all the things that she's experienced. It's a wonderful conversation, and Ashley has a great perspective on bringing mindfulness to NFTs and to Web3 that I think you're really gonna like. And this is my first episode back. I'm so excited to have the show rolling again. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in, who stuck around because I had that little hiatus. But I have a new setup right now, and over here on my right, I have Amara, my girlfriend, producing. So there was a great convo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I was really happy with it, and I'm so excited to have you here. It makes producing the show so much easier because I don't have to do all the post-production, so I just wanted to say thank you, and it is at Amara Andrew if you want to find her anywhere, byamara.com. But anyway, thanks again for doing this. And without further ado, let's dive right into my conversation with Ashley, aka MamaBucks. The phrase, wild hearts can't be broken. Does that have a specific meaning to you?
It does.
So I was curious, the meaning. I
Tattoo
know.
of it right there. So interestingly enough, a movie came out in 1991, a Disney movie called Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. And it is a highly fictionalized tale of Sonora Webster Carver, who used to dive horses off the steel pier in Atlantic City. And in that movie, she is so determined. She knows what she wants. She knows she's going to do it. One of my favorite parts of that movie is he's like, you need to leave. And so she wraps her feet around the insides of the chair. So he has to carry the chair out to move her. And this has always been one of my favorite movies. She ends up going blind on impact from keeping her eyes opened on a dive. And she continues to dive these horses. She uses the sounds of their hooves on the ground to know when to board the horse at the top of the pier. And even though the story is very fictionalized, just that kind of guts and that determination of this is my passion, this is my fire, and nothing's going to stop me. Later, we found out from her sister that it was more like, we have nothing else. What else are we going to do? We're going to have to figure this out. And unless let's do this. But we ended up naming our youngest daughter Sonora. After that movie, she is just as stubborn and fiery as the one in the movie. And we set our first series and storytelling for the business that we're running in 1920s Atlantic City because of that movie.
That's funny. So I didn't realize that it was that closely connected with ERALôR. That's very cool. I like that. So was that a tattoo you got early on? Was that the first? I know you have a piece on your arm as well, I think, right? No, you don't?
Yeah. My tattoos, I do.
Gotcha.
My tattoo journey on this is kind of this was my last tattoo, my third tattoo, but I actually, after the birth of Sonora, had postpartum psychosis, and it was very bad. At that point, I was a public school teacher. I have been a professional actor since I was 15. So having tattoos, I just wouldn't have done. I was a fifth grade teacher. I'm on stage. I don't want to cover them. But during the psychosis, I wasn't me. I mean, people describe me as having no light behind my eyes. And one day I was like, I'm going to get a tattoo. And literally called every place. Nobody could see me. They're like, yeah, we book weeks in advance. This one place says, yeah, we can get you in. They did a horrible job. And when I came home and showed my husband, he was like, that is a terrible tattoo. You have to get this covered. So weeks later, I went and had somebody cover it for me. And then seeing it just reminded me of the psychosis and how sick I was. So I tried to remove it at home, which we won't go into. And then I ended up having to get another one put over that. And so this has just been this tattoo now is 9 years old, has been through a progression. And so I forget that it's there most of the time, but it is a pain in the butt to cover for shows. And honestly, at this stage, I would love to have it removed because it just reminds me of who I was at that time, and that wasn't me. Mm-hmm. So I would love to one day be able to either lighten that or get something different. But, Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. I have both my daughter's names on my shoulders back here. Those ones are with me for life. This one, I'm ready to move on from that part of my journey.
Yeah, definitely. It totally makes sense because that I can barely imagine how that would have been to experience all of that. Like, how long was that period of time in your life?
So I ended up having prenatal. So during the pregnancy is when the psychosis began, and it lasted 2.5 years.
Wow.
And at that stage, I was hospitalized 3 times. So I was in a psychiatric unit. And the first time I checked myself in because I just knew I wasn't okay. I was scared to be left with my children alone. And so I checked myself in. And I checked myself in the other times as well. But that was just like my decision of knowing I wasn't okay. And by the time we are hitting a year and a half, 2 years, all the doctors are saying psychotic breaks, these like mental splits, they typically only last a few weeks. The longer this continues, the less likely she is going to ever come back. So once we hit that 2-year mark, they basically were like, do we want to just keep her hospitalized? Is it okay to send her home? We don't know if she'll ever come back. And thankfully, I went to Sedona, Arizona. Amazing, amazing place with my cousin who was going through a divorce with a celebrity. Not fun. And so we went there for healing. And on the way home, I had just heard in my mind, and I'm intuitive. I've been intuitive my entire life, but I just heard, find the blessing in your struggle and you will heal your life. And so I opened this journal and I started writing down everything. Like I had to quit my teaching job. I, couldn't pay bills anymore. We had to take out a loan to pay our taxes that year. Like I'm writing down all of these horrible things. And at the end of it, I got to quit my job. I got a break. I didn't have to take care of anyone. I didn't have to take care of my kids. I didn't have to take care of my house. I didn't have to take care of myself. I didn't have to cook. I got a break. And the moment that I realized how long I needed a break, it hit me that I needed to give that to myself. And so I began healing after that. And my doctor, who had been seeing me for years and years, finally, as months and months go on and I'm getting off of my medications and I'm doing well, he said, people don't recover, number one, from bipolar, which he had diagnosed me with first. And then the length of your psychosis. Like there is no recovery from that. So we either misdiagnosed you or we're going to call this a miracle. And so it has been since 2015 that I've been recovered and episode free. And that's since being diagnosed at 13 with depression. So I am very grateful. Everything that I personally believe, everything we go through is to help us grow and to learn and to evolve and to really understand who we are before coping mechanisms and learned behaviors and trauma responses. And it has given me the ability to really know myself and no longer settle for anything that isn't me. And so I'm very grateful for that journey, although I think my family would have wished we didn't go through it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm here and I'm so happy.
Yeah, there's so much value at the same time and so much pain and struggle and just everything together isn't easy, but it was all important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who would you say Ashley was at that moment? Sort of 2015, the new sort of refresh of you, like being maybe the more authentic you possibly.
Yeah, I think that journey's continued. Mm-hmm. I don't think who I was in 2015 was who I am now.
Absolutely.
But it was definitely somebody who realized I could no longer just go with the flow. At that point, I had gone to college to become a teacher. I was going to be a teacher. And I knew in my heart, I loved kids. I loved teaching. I'm good at teaching. But in the back of my mind, I was like, but there's so many other things. And I would call myself now a cosmic chameleon. I had spent my entire life being made to feel and believe that I was flighty and non-committal because I was good at this and I was good at that and I want to do this, but I want to do that. And then I have my dad who's like, oh, we paid for you to go to college to become a teacher. You're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a teacher the day you die. And I'm like, but there's so many other things. And so when I came back, when I woke up, I just couldn't. It was too painful to live out of alignment with who I really was and what I wanted to do. And I struggle. There are moments when if I feel like I'm struggling with my body, with my health, with my mental health, I know that that's because something's out of alignment. There's a mismatch somewhere. So I'm much more aware, much more self-aware. That's kind of like my best quality now is my self-awareness and knowing what I'm feeling and why and how to get out of it. And so now I give myself permission to follow that full pulse and that flow that I feel to move to things, because I always know that there's something in it for me to learn and to grow and then to pass on to other people. So much more accepting of myself, much more aware of myself, and much more willing to let myself move however I need to move to show up the best way I can.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important because we have to be us. We can fit into these boxes. We can follow this path that we think we're supposed to follow, but being able to be you and find that balance is so valuable just in the end, because we're only here for a brief period of time. And when it comes to balance specifically for you now, I know you've done various things. You had Norabelle Wellness, channeling the Sireness, different things that I know come back to wellness. What's your practice looking like around now to find that balance when you feel sort of just a little bit maybe out of whack, or even a daily practice just to remain in balance?
Sure. So I don't believe in balance. I do, because it's so important. But I don't think, if you think of a teeter-totter, that's like 50-50, and that's not me, and I don't think that's anybody. When I do something, I'm 100% in it, which means everything else gets nothing. But then what happens is when I'm done with that, then my 100% goes over here. And so it's kind of the balance at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month rather than the balance in the moment. Because I can't half-ass anything. I remember being in physical therapy a couple years ago, and my physical therapist was like, I want you to do 10 reps of this. And I got to 3, and I was like, she's like, all right, that's enough. And I was like, no, you said 10. She's like, no, you need to stop. She's like, man, are you all or nothing? You need to let that go. But for me, balance is making sure I'm listening to myself. And so that's giving myself enough time. For me, that's alone time, because I get very overwhelmed by noise and stimuli and all of that. So quiet time every day to make sure that I'm listening to my body, to my mind, everything that's going on. But I try to be active every day. It's a little bit different now that my kids are in school, trying to find that, because normally I wake up and I go for a walk or a hike. Now I have bus shifts. But, doing physical exercise as well as trying to eat healthy, lots of water. And really, I keep my phone notifications off. I know that's weird, but especially as an NFT brand founder, I don't keep my notifications on, because otherwise I'm going to be checking constantly. And so that's one of those boundaries that I set of, nope, Twitter notifications are off. And, I will close down Discord at 8:00 at night so that I have 2 hours before bed to just be me. And that's the most important thing, is just finding that time to listen to what I need. And that part of that is that physical element. And the other is that those moments of silence.
Yeah, finding mindfulness, like finding that the path to your own mindfulness of your life is a journey in itself. It's not so easy just to have the notifications off and to find comfort in silence. Like so many of us struggle being in silence where we need something going on. There has to be something more. Did you find any sort of journey to get there, or was it always at your core and something you could just sort of tap into, that seeking peace in silence?
I think so. I'm an introvert in the form of, to recharge, I need quiet and alone time. I'm also what they call HSP, which is highly sensitive person. So I have sensory stimuli, which is sounds, sights, touches, like certain fabrics I don't enjoy. And so for me, I've always needed that, like everything needs to be turned off. If I'm in the car by myself, there's no radio on. Like I swear people are going to think I'm a psycho killer or something because of that. But like, I need silence. Uh-huh. I just need that moment. So that part's fine. I actually see it as a sign of misalignment for me when I want to grab my phone. Like when I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? Let me get on my phone. That's a sign for me of like, ooh, are we avoiding something? Is this becoming habitual? Step back, take that second and find out what's really going on here. What are you seeking in picking up that phone?
Yeah, seeking or escaping, as you just said. And I don't think anyone's going to think it's wild to be in the car in silence. I hope not, because that's exactly me. Like our house is dead silent all day. Yesterday there were tree trimmers coming out, all this noise outside. It's like, wow, this is so different than how it is on a daily basis. But having that peace, having that ability to sort of center and focus and do the things that help us come alive, that we want to devote our life to doing, I think is everything. it's like we're here to do, if we want to do something with our life, we need to do it, not just talk about it, think about it, dream about it. We need to go and run and get going. And I love that you do that. Like that is something that like I could see finding the little threads, because it was a little hard to find some of the little past things of yours, because like those are the past. But I like to find as much as I can. So like I found your YouTube channel, found the different things that you've been in. I saw you were in Veep in the background of a Veep episode, like all different things, which is awesome. But I also like that you're able to be like, this is who I am now. I am all in. That was before. And not that it changes, not that you lose that, but you are now in this new space where you can take all of that, all of these experiences, wrap them up and put them into ERALôR, which I know like everything that you've talked about that, like it really feels like it scratches a bunch of those itches from year after year of your personal growth. So I sort of wanted to dive into that a little bit now, and like how you got to founding a project. And first, I know ERALôR, I am saying it correctly now, I hope.
You are.
Good, yeah. Because I know at first it's having the little extra markers on there did throw me off for a bit, but the first time I heard you, I'm like, okay, ERALôR, I got it now. but yeah.
Do you know, it's so funny because I know you're a marketing and branding person, and I studied marketing and branding because I had my own businesses and all of that. And I'm like, number one rule of a business, name it something easy to say and pronounce and read. What did we do? We didn't do that. Like, pick one niche. What are we doing? Picking four. Like, but when it comes down to it, you really did hit the nail on the head in that. I was thinking about this earlier, actually. I have a lot of friends in the acting space who will say, if I weren't acting, what else would I do? There's nothing else. This is who I am. This is what I want. And I've never had that. As much as I love acting, like I was 16, professional theater. My high school choir teacher literally was like, drop out of high school and go to Broadway. Like, go now. And I'm like, why? I don't want this to become my life. Like, I want this to continue to be my passion and my escape at that time and all of that. And so I still have friends who are like, nope, I'm an actor till the day that I die. And for me, I'm like, if that went away, and side note, it has for at least temporarily, because I have an esophageal condition that makes it difficult to sing and do prolonged speaking. And so for now, I'm on a sabbatical from the stage, but that didn't turn my world upside down, because there's so much in this world that I'm good at, that I love. There's more that I want to explore. I didn't know 2 years ago what an NFT was. I had no idea that this was going to come into my life. But that's one of the things that I do love about this space, is that I can take every little morsel of who I am, who I've been, and who I've becoming, and I can put it all together and make something completely new. And it all works. And that's something I love seeing in this space, is somebody going, I like this, and I like this, and I like this. Here you go. Where else can you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with the time right now, because everything is so early. So the space is so young. So we're all defining what it is. And you have the bigger projects who defined it in a certain way, and a bunch of projects who followed that exact path. But carving out your own that's where all the value lies. Like, that is what this is about. This is blogging 12, 15, whatever years ago. Then social media all those years ago. Now this is the next one. And we need to find the thing that's uniquely ours, because if we're bringing something to the table, why should it not? There's no reason that it shouldn't be something that really speaks to us.
Absolutely. And that's been one of my biggest struggles. And I won't say struggle, because so for me, little golden nugget. I like to do these, especially when I had like channeling the Sireness and Angel Eyes and Monkey Toes. Those were all the names of my spiritual like mentoring companies that
Sorry, one more time. What was that one?
Angel Eyes and Monkey Toes.
I did not see that one. Monkey Toes is just fun. I like that.
That one is from 2010. Again, there's this progression of like, I'm changing, so I'm going to change the business name. And that was,
I'm writing that down.
Go for it. I had a baby and I want to work with kids. And then I left teaching and I didn't want to work with kids anymore. And so it progressed to adults, and the channeling the Sireness. I am the Sireness, the siren of the voice, and then S as in goddess. But I always say, here's the golden nugget. And of course, I forgot what we were talking about, so it might not be that golden nugget.
Sorry.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, really bringing ourselves to the table, bringing something unique to the table in Web3 and NFTs and everything.
I got it. So I said that I was struggling with this. So here's the golden nugget. Anytime that we say that we're struggling with something, we have to replace that word with resisting. So if I'm struggling to lose weight, I'm resisting to lose weight. Why? Because having weight is an emotional barrier between me and this situation. It's a physical barrier between me and this situation, that sort of thing. So not truly struggling, but it did frustrate me quite a bit when I would see all of these amazing creators bringing their passion and their fire to something. And then people would come in and be like, well, why aren't you doing it like this? Why don't you do it like this? And for me, I'm sitting here having gone through this big, massive change in who I am because of the psychosis that I went through, and realizing that every single person, our entire purpose in being here is being who we are. Every gift that you have, every talent that you have, every whim that you want to follow is there for a reason. If it wasn't supposed to be followed, it would have been given to somebody else. And so all of that energy, and I always describe it as kind of like a pulsating river inside of you. It's warm and it moves. You can feel it inside of you moving. It's because it wants to come out. And so in this space, we have to follow that. And when you dampen it because people want staking or they want pets or they, whatever, you're not going to get that full potential. And I always kind of like to think of it as a gift with your name on it. Here's this gift. It's for you when you are 100% true to yourself. Oops, I hit my mic. True to yourself. And so if you're being 80% true to yourself, you're only going to get 80% of that gift. And so you have to really just let it all out. And I know that that might not be what people want, but the people that appreciate what you're bringing are going to find you, and your like attracts like. And that's what we're doing with ERALôR. Like, we're not trying to use hype or FOMO or influencers or anything like that. We want to have these types of conversations. I always say it's one-on-one, eye to eye, heart to heart. And if we can grow one person at a time, because we had a heart-to-heart conversation and because you feel seen and you can feel what we're building, then you're the person who's meant to be on this journey with us. And that's it. If you can't take 1 minute to connect, then you're not ready for this. And that's okay. But that is what we're doing with ERALôR. We are combining all of those pieces of who I am and who my husband is as my co-founder and our family, because our girls are going to be raised with ERALôR in their lives. And we're making sure that it's heartfelt and it's meaningful and it's intentional. And that is the word that is most important to me, is intention. Because everything that I do, I try every day in my real life to do everything with intention. But with ERALôR, every single step is intentional.
It's so important across the board. And intention in this space now is very uncommon, as we both know. I mean, there's so much just more. The FOMO, the trying to get people to just panic buy, and then if they're trying to flip, then panic sell, and all the different things. But why can't there be a brand? Why can't there be something that's a long-term experiential just moment in someone's life? Sort of like something that I've talked about with Jack a lot is making that future nostalgia. And I think that that's really important, because like you want to create that thing that today people love it, next year, the year after, but then down the line, 10 years, 15 years, you're like, remember that time? I remember the beginning when it was just the 6 of us, then the 12 of us, then the 100 of us, and just feeling that and thinking back to that, like there's power there. And you see all these brands coming back right now because of Web3 and using it because there's nostalgia, good or bad, that they can tap into, but going for that good, powerful, like visceral feeling is, I think, the perfect move and exactly what the space needs.
Thank you. And it's funny because nostalgia is one of the words I use almost every day, because if you haven't, I know you've seen probably some of our characters, but like our first series is set in the 1920s. And so we have these 1920s costumes and the colors are muted. We're doing a radio hour show. I just finished right before we were recording. I created a jingle for the intro. And so it's me on sound on GarageBand, like harmonizing with myself to create a little jingle. And it's this night, like, it's more 1940s than 20s, but it's like this 40s jazz radio jingle that I created. And that's one of those things we're trying to tap into. And I'm going to remove the word trying and should. Those are bad words. But trying, just means, I'll give it a best shot, but I'm not committed to it. But that's not it. We are providing nostalgia for eras gone by. And I think along what you were talking about is almost this timelessness. And really underneath that is connection. And that's so huge, because when we feel connected to art, to story, to each other, we have a reason to hold on and to show up and to keep caring. And that's what so many projects and founders are missing, is either one, it doesn't feel like they care about their community. One of my biggest pet peeves is these brands that come out and say, oh, we love our community, but they don't follow them. Like, follow your holders. If you care about them, retweet them, talk to them, at least give them a follow, help them boost their algorithm. You can't say you care about your community if you don't follow them. But that connection in this time and this space is really lacking, because people come in with an intention, and right now most of it is to make a quick profit. And that is a challenge for brands like ours where we're here for long term, we're going to grow over time. We're actually really just marketing to about 5%. And the rest of the 95% don't care. But the people who do care because of that connection. And that's what's going to continue to provide growth and meaningfulness. Meaningfulness? Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just want to ask about the radio hour real quick. What is that going to look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we just actually on the 10th and 11th of August had 7 professional actors come into town, and we recorded in a recording studio. So award-winning playwright D.C. Cathro, he wrote The Book of Merman about Ethel Merman. It's a parody of the Book of Mormon. But he also wrote a really wonderful show called Till about Emmett Till and has hundreds of other scripts. But he wrote this as a serial audio drama. So serial to mean short episodes. So we have a total of, I believe, 23 scenes that we are putting together into 11 episodes, which will range about 15 minutes long. And so every week we'll drop a new episode that chronicles our 7 characters from our first series. And so right now, we're doing this fun little jingle intro. We have public domain 20 songs as transitions, and I'm actually working with our holdership to record really quick ads to go in since it's a radio hour show. And so it will be little things which have Easter eggs either into our stories, our characters, our community, or the ETH space. Like we just had one of our members write one about a chocolate bar, and he called it Vitalic instead of Vitalic. Oh. But it's and so like there's just like these little Easter eggs dropped in. And so bringing our community in to get to be a part of that, but really trying to embrace kind of that you can put your phone down and just listen. For 15 minutes, just bring your attention to these voices, to this story. You can do it with your family. Like it is a family drama. Yes, it's prohibition. There's some shadiness, but I'll let my 11 and 8-year-old listen to it for sure.
Yeah. And how did you connect then with the playwright? Is that through your experience in the past? Is it someone in the space? How did that come about?
Yeah. So he is an old friend. We actually met in 2009. We've done several shows together. He's an actor as well, but then he branched into playwriting. Nice. So when we decided we were going to do this, first, I was like, let's do 1920s. And the reason more so than Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken was in 2006, I actually wrote a musical called Notes from the Cellar that are these 7 characters. And when we traded in our flip phones for iPhones, all of the music I had recorded with my voice on that phone went away.
Oh, no.
So when we moved to our house in 2016, I found the script that I'd written, but I was like, the music's gone. This is worthless. And I threw it away. So I was like, okay, we're going to bring these characters back to life. I at least know the whole story arc, and I'll just find somebody who can write it. And I said, it's got to be DC. I know him. We're friends. I asked him. He said, this is totally up my alley. And he said yes. Now, he said it was a challenge, however, because he's used to writing for the stage. So you have sets and costumes, and person crosses stage right, wipes a tear from her face. You don't get to see any of that. And so writing it in a way that you understand people are coming in, they're exiting. We have sound effects. You can hear footsteps. You can hear windows opening, all of that sort of thing, but also making sure we're addressing who we're talking to. And hey, Paul, what are you doing with that box? Where on stage, you would have seen him lifting up a box. So it's been a very interesting challenge, but it's also been a lot of fun. And I'm really grateful as a stage actor to have had the opportunity to step into the director and producer part and sit at the table with the sound producer and sound engineer and just listen and get to shape it in that moment. It was a really, I would almost say it was a life-changing moment for me, because especially with the health struggle that I've been having with not being able to be on stage, it was that moment of going, I can now continue this creativity and bringing characters to life in this way.
Yeah.
And that was life-affirming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just finding another door, another path that you can take along your journey that fits who you are right now and what you're inclined and compelled to do within the constraints that are inevitable for all of us. We all have our own set of constraints, and yeah, it sounds perfect. Just having it set up like this. I like it.
It is. I have to tell a funny side stories, and I apologize. I'm just that person.
No, this is perfect.
A couple weeks ago, it was right before we recorded for Johnny's song, our radio hour. I received several emails from past business clients of mine that apparently a rumor was going around that I had died.
Oh, geez.
And so they all came in like minutes from each other, like, please tell us you're alive. I need to know you're okay. Well, part of that is because, like you found, when I'm done with something, I'm done with something. So like I've closed down the website of my old business, and I've, removed my Etsy store, and like have just kind of washed myself of that because I've moved on. And so once they knew I was okay, I did receive an email back from one of them who had said, you continue to be an inspiration even though you're not here, because of how easily you make it seem like life threw this to me. I'll pivot. I'll just move on and I'll do something else. I'll figure out a new way to get this light and this energy and this flow to the world. And as you said that, it kind of clicked for me of like, yeah, I do kind of do that. It's just like, okay, this is gone. This is over. Okay, where are we moving next? How can we shift and adapt and create something new?
Yeah. Pivoting and adjusting is so important for ourselves and for any business, because that is what it comes down to. Is the market today isn't the market tomorrow, and you have to love what you're doing. And if you don't love it, like you said, with founders, they could do something for the quick buck. But if they don't love it, and if they're not there and saying like, this is how I want to spend my time, I want to be building this in the image I have today, but tomorrow that image might change, and I'm okay with that. It's such an important trait or maybe skill to develop, because everything changes. I mean, we can look at just the market of NFTs since last year. I mean, you could have dropped almost anything and sold out in hours. Now you can drop almost anything and not sell out in months. And it's a different market, and it's important to adjust accordingly for what works for us. So doing this in the way that you are, it's expensive. It's an upfront, expensive endeavor that like a lot of people don't do it that way. They'll do it where it's like, okay, we'll do the PFP project, raise a bunch of money, then promise. Like, I don't know. I always love the like under promise, over deliver kind of approach, just because there's so much talk and so little action, just generally, just in people. It's just how we're wired. It feels good. Like as soon as you talk about it, you get that little dopamine as though you did it, but we didn't. We just told people we're going to. Now you have to put all the work in to do it. And there's a huge difference, a huge chasm between the two. So going in with such ambitious goals and starting there with those ambitious goals, how have you approached funding it? And sort of like, do you have a family to take care of? And I know it's you and your husband. I'm not sure exactly the scenario there, but yeah, how have you approached it? And how have you maybe, I feel like budgeted is too lame of a way to look at it. But yeah, how have you sort of wrapped that up so you can do the things that you want to?
So we sat down and really wanted to look at the runway. How much could we afford to put up front? And we sold a Bored Ape before we launched. And we used part of that to say, we're going to put this to the side. Of course, when we planned ERALôR, it was in February. We had started creating a project in November. And real quick, so I was asked to step in temporarily as a project manager for another project and came up with a big, beautiful roadmap. The founder loved it. And then the day before we dropped it, she said she didn't want to do it anymore. And
the project or the roadmap? The
roadmap,
okay,
which I had been pushing and selling and showing my face and voice for weeks.
Yeah, that's how we initially connected, was over that.
Right. Well, so one of the things we were doing is a podcast audio actor driven storytelling. And so when she told me that she wasn't interested in moving forward with that anymore, and I do understand, like, I'm not trying to throw her under the bus or anything, but she wouldn't have been able after I left to continue that. And so I said to her, I will create a sister project that will be for storytelling. And at the time I thought, okay, I'll do storytelling for any project. Like, any project can come to me and I'll work with my field of actors and writers and we'll put on productions for them. And I was fine with that. And then I sat there and I went, but what about me and my husband's project? You know, what about that? Is that ever going to happen if I start this project? And so we sat there in February, we said, how can we meld them together? And so our initial project was based on travel and experiences and events. And then, of course, the sister project was storytelling. And so we were like, all right, how are we going to bring these together? But when we were sitting there in February, we had decided, you know, are we going to do that traditional roadmap of at 10%, we've funded enough to do this? No, because we'd really like to hit the ground running. Like, we don't want to say, oh, well, we only ever raised 10%, so we never reached our goal. So now we're just sitting here and waiting for more mints. Let's just upfront cost, you know, figure this out. We'll pay, and we decided we would pay for the first year. And so what is that for us? It's 3 series, Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3, which involves our team, the events. Now, we're not paying for like everyone to go to the Dominican Republic in February, but we are hosting an event at a resort in the Dominican Republic, and we are actually going to be paying for one of our one of our founder circle holders, and one of our generative holders. We will pay for them, like as a raffle. But, you know, for us, we were really careful about the words that we use, because words do have energy. And number one, we try not to use the word project, because we are a registered business. We are fully doxed. To us, we are a brand, we are a business, but more so than anything, we're actually an experience. Like, I hope that when you come to ERALôR, you are experiencing nostalgia and connection, and you are creating memories. But we will often say behind closed door that this is a passion project, because this is something that we get to do together. We love traveling. So what are we doing? We're hosting traveling and events. Storytelling, I've been on stage for 30 years. He's been coming to see me in shows for 19. So, you know, like, this is a big part of who we are. And then community building is who we've always been for as long as we can remember, as individuals and as a couple. And so for us, this is a way for he and I to connect, for our family to connect, and to be putting our energy and our time in the same direction, which is really, really powerful for partnerships and couples. And so we had just said, we will fund this, and in a year we'll see, because it's not that we're saying, oh, we'll close it down. We'll just say, we'll have to decide, and we'll talk with our holdership. Do we love the stories but nobody's coming to the events? Or do we love the events and nobody's listening to the stories? Can we pivot? Can we readjust to make this fit our holders, fit where we are in life, fit our finances, to make sure that we can move forward and continue that experience for us and everybody involved?
Yeah. Building together, because the community, the people who've collected. I hate saying investors, because people always say like the investors in a project and this and that, but that's too, that's that flip mentality. And like, I see it as like collectors, and it's a community that you're building. And why not have the community dictate in their own way sort of what they like, what they don't like? Because we can just sort of keep throwing things and be like, well, I want this. But like you said, if you do an event and no one's there, okay, like, we can still travel. We don't need to do that event with the big community, you know?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, it's so important to have that flexibility too, to be able to adjust. And doing the 3 series throughout the year, then I like that, because it has, at least for the first year, there is a revenue generating model that stretches. It isn't just one mint. Something that scares me with so many projects. Like what I do is I work behind the scenes with people to help them build a business and grow and make a sustainable business, a profitable, sustainable business that doesn't take all their time, that's mindful and everything. But it scares me seeing so many projects that are so well-meaning, and they're like, we're going to do this, and then forever we're doing these things. And I'm like, forever costs money. Like, how do you get there?
Yep.
What's the next step? Because that first mint is only the first mint. You're not going to have secondary sales making a bunch. You're not going to have all these things that people maybe just dream about. So having that runway, having that lined up is really good. Do you right now, or actually, no, I want to rewind just for a second, because you do have a team. How have you approached sort of those relationships? Because every project seems to do it a little differently, where it's like, it could be percentage of mint, it could be a monthly thing. How are you doing that?
So every person is a little bit different. Our artist, who is, oh, she's one of my favorite human beings ever. And I'm like, watch, we're going to meet each other and hate each other. But online, we love each other. So she goes by What's Her Face. She's in Spain. She's so talented. And when we originally approached her, we said, we want you to be full-time. And she's like, nope, I will not be full-time. And we were like, oh, okay. So we started trying to find other people. And so then we had to approach her and say, like, when we mean full-time, we don't mean that you don't have time for anything else. We just mean we want to pay you monthly. Like, we don't want to say, oh, you did a job for us, here's a lump sum. We want to make sure that your bills are met every single month. She said, nobody does that. She's like, are you scamming me? I'm like, no, like, we really do want to take care of you. And so we pay her a monthly fee. We also gave her a startup fee to kind of boost her getting started. Our devs are both wonderful and both agreed very graciously to have a friends and family discount for us. So we had a like upfront fee for our devs. And then our community manager is kind of like we don't have anything like set in stone. Like when we pay other people, we send a little that way because our community is, number one, very small at this point. But number two, we are so casual. I hate Discord. I hate it. And so like at 8:00, I put up a bedtime message and we close our Discord on Sundays and Mondays and we call it our balance break and we put it on read only. We never want to take away from anybody's life. Like that is so important. We never want to interrupt their day. I hate pinging people. I try to ping twice a week. Tuesday when we reopen Discord and Friday we do a big long announcement of everything behind the scenes that happened that week. So transparency and communication. But so that our community right now is just kind of like, we're here if you need us, but please go live your life. Like we want you to have memories and experiences and adventures. That's more important to us than you being in our Discord. So that's how our fee structure works. We originally, when we were going to mint out 1,000 pieces, they were also going to get a percentage of the mint.
Yeah.
But then as we got closer, the market happened and all of that, we decided to kind of change the structure a bit of our mint. We gave our founders circle. They were originally supposed to pay for a mint. We gave it to them for free for joining us. And then they got to gift a free NFT. And so we ended up having about 50 people with free NFTs and then other people who kind of meandered in. And so we knew that, number one, we were likely not going to mint out, especially not immediately, nor did we want to, because that if you mint out, that normally means people are coming in to flip. We want people to slowly come in because they've taken time to know us. But we also knew that that first boost of revenue was going to be mostly free mints.
Yeah.
And so we said to them, like, look, we want to give you a percentage of mint every time. But for this one, it's not going to be substantial. So we'll send you just kind of a lump fee a little bit in once we've accumulated some. So that is a really big thing for us. We want to make sure our team feels taken care of and appreciated. We also we're paying for their Dominican Republic trip. And so we're doing things like that because even though the funds might not be there right this second, 4 days into mint.
Yeah.
we can say, hey, we're going to take care of your stay at our event. And that way you're here with us, because that's more important to us than anything, is having this time with you. So we have little things like that.
Oh yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah, and I like how you have that structured, because it's tough. There's no right answer. Like, we all have to figure out what works for us and the people we're working with, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to afford the things that you're doing within the project, but also everyone else needs to afford the time they're giving to the project. So it's always a tough line to sort of straddle. And now I love the Discord approach, because like I too am not a big Discord fan. I like it took me a while, like initially, like last summer, I was like, this is too much. I cannot do this at all. And then I realized, okay, I told myself this is a party. I can open the door, say hello, close the door, and walk away. Like, and when I started looking at it like that, like I don't need to keep tabs on everything. I can step in, see what's going on, say hi. Like, that's sort of the approach I've taken so far. And it works for me, but also I know like that means I'm not present most of the time. How are you looking at, let's say, keeping the community engaged? Not in I feel like saying it that way sounds manipulative, but keeping it where, like you sort of alluded to it before, making sure the community like cares, like that you're giving them the thing to care about. How are you looking at that right now?
It's very interesting. We have people who come in every day, no matter what, right? Like, we just have those people who are going to come in and they're going to say hi and all of that. One of the interesting things about where we are right now is we did our founder circle mint, which is 0.25, and that is a rewards membership. So they get half price generative mints. They get to build their own NFT. So they can pick, I want this, I want that, I'm going to build my own. They get discounted merch. They get first access to all of our trips and events, so they have all of these rewards. 80% of our founders are actually founders of other projects. And so they're not around much. And it was that moment I had to step back and I went, okay, I'm not hanging out in their Discords. So I can't expect them to be hanging out in mine. Mm-hmm. But it's also this beautiful moment of, you want to go to the doctor that the doctors go to, right? Like, if a doctor is sick and they're going to a doctor, that's probably the best one there is. So the fact that so many founders have come into our project makes me like, okay, this is a good sign. Like, they see what we're bringing to the table. They like what we're putting on the table. And that's beautiful. So I will never pester them about coming in. In terms of engagement, I am very much against, and it wasn't always this way, but when I was trying to revive a dead project, we were doing things like, you can come in and gamble Discord coins every hour, and you can turn them in for airdrops, and you can turn them in for prizes. And every time you retweet one of our tweets, you earn more points. And like, I was trying to get engagement, and it worked. It did. We went from a 0 floor to a 0.06 floor in the 2 months I was there. It worked. We rebuilt them. But then with this, I realized I love what I'm doing. But I also have 2 little girls that need me. I have a husband who needs me. We have trips. We have a home. We have all of these things. And so if I'm going to devote years of my life to this, it has to be in a balanced way. And so if I want balance, I need to give my community balance. So we aren't doing anything like that. And we initially wanted to do trivia nights and poker nights and all of that, but that's demanding people's time. And so for me, in terms of engagement, there's really nothing actively that we're attempting, other than every Tuesday we have our Rise and Reset spaces to get back into the week. And then every Sunday, my husband and I are in Discord for an hour of chat before we close it down. We will never reward people for coming to those, because we'd rather them do what they need to do. So I don't have like a solid answer in terms of engagement. It is truly actually giving people their time back and trying to give them reasons to log off. Like we give them prompts on Thursdays for gratitude. We give them prompts on Wednesdays for workouts. Like, how can we actually elevate your life and get you out of Discord? Because we don't want you engaging here. We want you engaging there.
I like it. I mean,
it goes against everything every project does.
Well, but that is the thing. You're carving your own path. You're taking it down the path that there's someone, AJ Leon, who like I sort of know loosely from the space, from entrepreneurship and stuff from way back in the day. But he had a quote, something along the lines of, instead of following the well-worn path, grab a machete and hack down your own. And I always loved that because it's so much easier for you to just say, okay, like sort of like what you were doing before. It wasn't easy, but the plan is easy to say, we're going to do this. We're going to do poker night, this. We're going to get people here. We're going to raise the floor. We're going to do this. But in the end, why? Like, what's the reason for doing it? Is it just more money? Is it because you love it? Like, taking that step back, I think, is so important. And you're hacking down your own path. I think that's just wonderful. And I don't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to touch on one more thing. You mentioned all the founders being in your founders circle, the founders of other projects being in your founders circle. And that speaks exactly to who you are, because you're a connector, and you make these connections, these authentic one-on-one connections, which are so valuable, so important. One to many. Like, I'm a behind the scenes person. Before Bad Fruit and Kidney Stone Diet, which are two of our platforms, everything I do is behind the scenes. But that means I'm always one-to-one. Like, I know founders more than I know customers and like the market people. Mm-hmm. But being that you're that connector, do you have any sort of tips for someone how to start, or maybe how you approach connecting with someone? And you've built this amazing network in a space that's new. I mean, because like all of us a year ago, none of us knew each other. This space, a little more than a year ago, this space didn't even exist yet. So sort of how have you approached networking, and like networking being the worst word to use, but just connection?
Do you know, I personally think that I am the worst at connecting. In person, I am so awkward. Because I'm an introvert, like I have to take that step back. Like I'm usually on the side of the room. And my husband, Big Bucks, he is just the kindest, most loving, most generous person you will ever meet. And so we've been together 19 years. I've never met in 19 years somebody who doesn't like this man. And so he is the reason I'm in this space, and he's the reason why people started following me, because he's like, hey, MamaBucks is here. I think I'm a bit different when it comes to this type of thing. I am a bit, we talk about this often. He should be our partnership person. We're like, you're a partnership person. If you want to talk with me, I want you to put everything in one email. Like, I'm that type of person that's like, hey, MamaBucks, I'm interested in a collab. Here's all the details. What do you think? Where he's like, no, you have to say, hey, how are you? Oh, how's your husband doing? And oh, by the way, what do you think about a collab? And I'm like, oh, good God. Like, no, like, I don't drag it out. I have things to do. So I think I probably come across a little bit more assertively.
You're preaching to the choir here, because I am the best at closing email threads. Like,
it's so funny because I'm like, I don't know if I come off as like aggressive or like too eager or anything, because there's people I've reached out to for collabs who like never respond, but they'll talk to me in the comments of things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, maybe I just want it too much, or maybe it's just because I'm that type of person where it's like, hey, I'm interested in a collab. Here's the details. What do you think? When people really just want a, hey, how are you? How's your life? By the way, are you interested? I'm not that type of a person. Yeah. So,
and that would be inauthentic. You wouldn't necessarily be like, I'm not here to talk about that. Like, we're here to talk about this. And like, of course, there's a giving side to it. You don't want to be just like, take. Like, that's not at all. But I do think there's an importance to having a clear communication when that's something that's important to you, because like I do so much support for our, like we sell like digital products and things too. I do so much support. I don't want a response. Like Joe sends me an email. I want to tick every single box. And by the end, the only response that's possible is thank you, because I don't want that back and forth. I have hundreds of other people to respond to. So it's like you learn that and build that up, but also sending kindness over, because usually like people, it's the strangest thing for us, but people apologize when they send me support. But also I'm very clear on our website. It's 2 of us. We're very mindful about our time. There's a 3 business day lead time for support response. Like we check email every 3rd day. That's how it's been always. And when I say we, I'm the only one that does support. Dave, my business partner, is the designer. And it's like, it's just wild then to have someone be like, I'm so sorry. I know you're so busy, but I ran into this problem. Can you help whenever you have a chance? I'm like, you don't need to apologize, but thank you. Like it's just very kind. And we build this rapport in one email, which I think that's what you end up doing in your way, not in my way, but in your way. You build that rapport in that one contact where suddenly it's like, oh, who is MamaBucks? Like there's something here with this person that isn't just take. It isn't, will you please do this for me? Send.
Right. And I think that is, I know you had seen a post that I made the other day. In our Discord, we opened an introducing me thing, and all of a sudden I wrote a book, which was not my intention at all. But it was also the first time in a very long time, and probably a year since I closed down my counseling business, that I really just took the time to explain who I am and my mentality of life and what I'm here to do. And when I really kind of boil myself down at the recording studio, at home, one of my biggest dreams in life, I would love to open a retreat center or a resort. And I've wanted to do it for years. I used to want to do it for the spiritual community. Now I'd love to do it for the NFT community. And it's something we talk about weekly, about having a place in nature and being able to design that space. I've been drawing floor plans since I was a kid. I love decorating. But when we talk about space, you also have to talk about energetic space. And as a teacher, you hold educational space and energetic and emotional space for your students. As an actor, I'm actually holding the room for every person in that audience to experience what I'm experiencing. And I'm holding space for the actors beside me on stage to engage in that energy field. And even in the recording studio, as the director, I am creating a platform for these actors to reach their full potential. And I feel like I'm doing the same in the NFT space, and that is my goal, is with our artist. I hope that I am always providing her with something that brings her joy to create with. And I'm giving her enough support and freedom to create in her own way and to bring these characters to life in her way. So who I am, I feel kind of intricately, is I want to create space for people, whether that's physical, emotional, energetic. And so I really do, when I approach people and connecting, it's never about what you can do for me. It's how can I hold space for our energies to mingle? And what can we create when those energies mingle? If I can shine a light on you, that helps me, because that's who I am and that's what I want to do. And so you're absolutely right. Like, I might be to the point in these creating these connections, but my intention in connecting is always to create a safe and supported space for people to thrive and grow and experience more. And that is the basis of ERALôR. If you stripped away the storytelling and everything, I would still be here to make sure that the people in our community feel seen and supported and have a place to just be them, to just be. So that's everything that I am, and that's everything that I put forward every day into ERALôR and and this space. And I keep saying, I'm going to keep planting those seeds, because the more we plant them, the more they grow. And so we got to stop watering the weeds and keep planting those seeds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the perfect note to wrap on, because that just encapsulates everything. Thank you so much again for taking the time to have the chat.
Absolutely.
Where should we send people to follow along with what you're doing with ERALôR, the website, wherever?
Yeah, ERALôR.io. So ERALOR. ERALôR.io is our website, and that's where you can mint either a Founder's Pass or a Series 1 token. That will also eventually list where we're streaming our Johnny Song Radio Hour show. And on Twitter, we are ERALôR NFT, ERALOR NFT.
I want to thank Ashley for joining me on this episode. Again, you can go to ERALôR.io. That's ERALOR.io to check out everything that they're doing with the project, which I think this is a very special project, and I'm very excited to see where things go with it, because focusing on mindfulness is just so unique in this space. We don't have that at all. But Amara, what do you think of the conversation?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
No, but yeah, it was really neat, like diving into looking at it from a different perspective, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had some questions of my own, so I was trying to not jump in.
Oh yeah. What would you
have
asked?
to make this a dual sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just a couple questions about historicity and things like that from a historical sort of perspective.
Oh yeah.
And diversity and inclusivity, but that's just my own take.
Well, yeah, you're just interested in all the historical side of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
yeah, how do you feel? How do you
How
do you feel? This is so weird. I'm looking at like 3 different things right now. I can't multitask. I can only single task. But how do you feel being back with starting now and everything? Because this is your first episode back.
Well, yeah, this really helps. So, I mean, having you here is huge. Switching to that camera now, it's like weird. So, go back over there. No, but like having you do this is such a huge help, because now I don't have to worry about all the post-production. So I just wanted to thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm a long-time listener, first-time producer.
You're silly.
I've been waiting to say that for like 2 hours.
But anyway, I think we should wrap right here. So thanks again for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this show, I hope you subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening now. And with that, I think we will just see you next time.
Bye.